Hi there, welcome to Join Architect Jane. This is the live stream podcast, depending on how you're wanting to watch it. You can listen on podcast or you can view this as a video. And if you're watching on the replay, please do put #replay and tell me where you're listening in from. So today we have a full show for you. I'm going to be covering how to choose the best architect for you. There are 3 types of architect, and we're going to get into that. And we have got a couple of questions. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer during this live stream, then go ahead and pop your question into the chat and let me know what your question is. And if I can, then I'll pick it up. And if not, or if you're watching the replay, still pop in any questions that you have, and I do come in and I pick up questions and I use these questions in future live streams, so your question will get answered at some point, as long as it's not like a rude question. Don't ask me any rude questions, I don't do those. So here we go, and we're also going to be talking about, and if you see me looking over here, I've got some notes here, so that's where I'm looking, what you can do during the summer to help inspire your home improvements project. So there are a few different things that you can do. So first of all, I am going to go into how to choose the best architect for you. So there are lots of different kinds of architects. I've sort of summarized things. There are 3 kind of architects in one sense, but then there are lots of other different strands to those different kind of architects. And I know that if you're looking for an architect, you may be feeling a little bit confused about, who is the right one, the best one for you. So there are some questions that you need to consider in terms of, I'm going to get into them. The first one is, what is your priority? So in a project, there are like 3 typically there are considered to be 3 priorities. So there is quality, cost, and time. So your deadline. So these 3 aspects of cost, time, and quality can help you to guide you to deciding which is the right kind of architect for you. So if your budget, the amount of money that you have available to spend on this is the key thing, then you want to be looking for architects who are really good at efficient design, elegant, space-efficient design, who will maximize the amount of value that you can get out of the minimum amount of new built, because building is expensive. The more new stuff that you build, the more it's going to cost. So if you can either make alterations to the space you already have, or build only a minimum amount but get everything that you want out of it, then that is going to work better for your budget. Now, there is a common kind of approach to sort of say, well, I'm going to go for the cheapest sort of architect. And I said earlier, there's like 3 kinds of architects. So there's like what I call the traditional architect. There is a more sort of innovative architect who does things a bit differently. That's what I would categorize myself as. I don't work in a traditional way, and I am a real architect. And then there is the 3rd type, which kind of rudely I consider to be like a fake architect. They are the people who are often referred to you, often from builders or neighbors, and you'll be told that they're an architect. But if you actually dig a little bit deeper, you probably will find that they're not an architect. They will tell you something like, oh, I can do everything an architect can do. And they will probably have some kind of a professional construction background, perhaps a surveyor or a CAD plan drawer or a technician, something along those lines, where they do have really good skills, really good construction knowledge, but they are not exactly the same thing as an architect. And there are some things that they tend not to be able to do in the same way or as well as an architect, which tends to be the design element. Now, that's not always true, but that is generally the case. So those three types, of those three, typically the fake architect type, they're not really an architect but can do everything an architect can do, or so they say, they tend to be the cheapest type. They're not always actually very cheap. They are, they charge you a hefty sum, but they're not going to necessarily do anything more than a more standard copy-paste type design. And that means that they often don't have the ability to produce the more space efficient, very bespoke design. So if you're looking at something that is much more bespoke, very space efficient and lower cost, then you do want to go for an architect, at least up to the initial design stage, at least up to planning, where you're more likely to get both a design that fits you better as well as a planning permission. And then if you go and work with somebody, if your budget is really tight, then if you worked with somebody who is more construction professional and they just focus on the construction aspect rather than the design, and they're much more about a standardized approach, they can very quickly put in construction information that is very standard, generic sort of stuff, that meets building regulations, that is all, works, is buildable, is fine. A surveyor or a technologist, they are really good at that, and they can do it quicker and they can do it more cheaply. It won't be as unique necessarily. Depends on, they're specialists in some aspect, then they may have more strings to their bow. But if they're more of a standard technologist or surveyor, then they're not going to have the same level of detail or bespoke customization that you'll get from an architect. And that could be a benefit to you if you have a very tight budget. So you could get work with somebody like myself, a more innovative architect, or you could work with a traditional architect to get the design that's right for you, and then work with somebody else who's going to be able to do a quicker and cheaper kind of job on the building regs and construction drawing side. That won't be as bespoke, won't be as customized, won't be as specialized, but it can be quick and cheap. So that is a good way to balance things out if budget is your priority. However, one thing to be aware of, if you're going to work with an architect who's very traditional in the way that they approach things, then what they will tend to do is give you a fee for one design and one amendment, which can mean that if you're not very clear about what it is that you need and want from your home design, then that design process can take a lot longer than you might expect and involve a lot more design iterations, which can cost each time couple of grand each time. So if you don't want to do that, then you could work with somebody like me at the very beginning to create a sketch design where we explore all your options very quickly and come up with a really good design that you want with a fixed fee and a shorter time scale. So that is something that I can help you with in the big picture plan. So in terms of your priority, if budget's your priority, that is a really good way to go, getting a fixed fee and then going for very space efficient design and going for a more standardized approach to the details. That is going to suit you better if you are looking for budget as your highest priority. If quality is your highest priority, then you probably would prefer to work with an architect, not a fake architect, because you're going to get much more customization. You're going to get much more unique design that is higher quality, that is more specialist, more innovative. And so, for example, you might want to go down something like a passive house type route or a fabric first, much more eco route. That's the kind of route that I specialize in. Or equally, I also specialize in working with historic buildings, a much more sensitive approach where you've got a design that actually fits sensitively with an older building. Now that is a kind of set of qualities that you might be looking to achieve. And if you do have a specific set of qualities that you're looking to achieve, then choosing your architect based on what does quality mean to you? That's key. Get clear on what quality means to you, and then look for an architect who's able to deliver that specific definition of quality for you. And then the final one is budget. We've done budget, done quality, and timescale. So if you're looking for something very fast, if you have got, couple of years, you want to do it in a relaxed way, maybe you can't afford it all right now, but you want to get started and take your time to get to the point where you're actually gonna save up a deposit or something, and then you're going to be able to go in a few years time. But you want to get started with the design, get all the permissions in place, so that once you get to that point, a couple of years down the line, you'll be ready to go. So timescale, then you want to have somebody who can do something, turn around very, very quickly. Now, the best people to turn things around very, very quickly are the technologists and surveyors, what I call the fake architects. And the reason being is they often do more of a copy-paste type approach. So if it's not a very unique design to you, it's much quicker. You know yourself, if you're working on a Word document, you're typing something up, it takes a lot longer to think of something new to say and type it up compared to, there's ChatGPT. You can get stuff out of ChatGPT perhaps, but alternatively, you can copy and paste it from ChatGPT and put it into your document and you're good to go. That's much faster, a standard generic sort of solution, rather than something that's completely new, bespoke, unique, and fresh to you. That takes longer to produce that kind of design. So if you are looking at something that's a very high speed turnaround, then either you're going to have to pay an architect. If you also want it to be unique and bespoke, you're going to probably have to pay an architect a lot more to create a very quick turnaround, or you're going to go for something that's very standard. It's not that special, but it's fast. So these are your kind of like balancing up, like which is your priority. The way that I work is very fast at the beginning, but because I introduce, the big picture plan, which is my starter package, that's fixed fee. It's very fast turnaround, but the later stages are not as fast because I involve you throughout with the decision making, and we look at options and we make it very bespoke and unique to you. So that takes a bit longer. But if you're wanting to get started quickly, then the big picture plan is really good because it meets all three requirements. It hits it's a good budget price, it's fast, and it is high quality, bespoke, and unique to you. So priority is a key thing, but then. And if you also, another thing to think about in terms of priority is all of the whole process all the way through. Those three priorities are going to help you decide all of the stages all the way through. So I have created something called the renovation roadmap, which you can get hold of. It's a kind of on-demand little training with a workbook that you can figure out. You can follow the videos, short videos, and figure out what are your priorities and what decisions does that then help you to make, and set out a roadmap for your project so you've got each of those processes in place. And 50% of that goes to the homeless charity Coffee for Craig. So you can get that. It's only 30 quid. You can get started with that. That's a really good way of figuring out what is your priority for your project and what decisions do you want to make and how do you want to progress your project on the basis, like being guided by your priority. The second thing to think about are your values. What's important to you? So there are lots of different reasons why why you might be looking at improving your home. Perhaps you are looking to improve your connections and enjoy your time with your family and have sort of more of an entertaining space. Perhaps you want to really wow the neighbors and want everybody to like look at how amazing your house is, and that's kind of like a bit of a social status thing. You want to feel good about your house and you want to feel proud with your house. Maybe you want to enjoy an eco lifestyle and you want to feel like you're doing your bit for the planet, and you want it to be as eco as possible. Perhaps you are looking to just have an easier and more comfortable life. That is the key thing for you, to enjoy your life and relax and have a home that allows you to do that more easily. So these different sort of values that you may be looking for, or outcomes that you may be looking for from your home, you want to look at your architects and compare them in terms of their values as well. So some architects, they're very much interested in being on Grand Designs and having design awards. And if you're looking for some sort of like pride in your home and having that self-esteem, like you've got the best house in the street, then perhaps working with an architect who has those sorts of design awards or has been on Grand Designs, perhaps that is a priority for you. If you want to be doing your bit for the environment, then maybe you need to search for an architect who's more of an eco-home architect like I am, or you want to respect sort of like the history of your home and the context and make sure it's all very sensitive to that. Again, that's sort of thing that I specialize in, so that might be important to you. If you are looking for space that's all about entertaining and like having huge spaces and having lots of people over, then you want to look for architects who are sort of doing that kind of creating big, huge extensions that are kind of wow, bring lots of people in. Or if you're looking for people who are sort of more on the, you want to just enjoy your life, you want to have much more of a lifestyle home that works for you, that's easy to live in, then you want an architect who's going to understand that, who's going to be able to help you with that. And that's again something that I really specialize in, is creating that ease and pleasure in your home. And I do that by making sure we have very clear vision and understanding how you want to live, and then being able to deliver a house design that actually makes it easy and comfortable to live that way within your home. So these are some things to think about, like what are your values, and then think about how do you want to work? How do you want this project to work? So there are different ways. What I would say is like the kind of fake architect kind of way. The reason I would say this is because I have had many clients who have worked with someone that they thought was an architect before they then came and worked with me. And what they often tell me is that working with them, they were told there was only one option, and that's because they weren't designing a unique option. They just had, this is your house type, this is what you can do to it, a copy paste sort of option, this is what you can do to your house, that's it, there's no other choice. When they worked with me, then they realized that's not true. There's many things you could do. Another thing that they felt is that they haven't felt listened to, because they just came round, had a quick look, and then just gave them a design that was the only thing they knew how to do to that type of house. Again, just not having the design skills and knowledge means that that's very likely to happen with someone who's not really an architect, and that's very frustrating now if you actually want a design that includes your ideas and reflects what you need and want from it. So that's what I found from clients who've previously to me, they've worked with someone who's not really an architect and they thought it was. Then they've worked with me and they've realized actually, first of all, they can get all of their ideas and inspiration can be included in the design. There are multiple options. There's really never just one thing that you can do. There are always different things that you can do. You have many choices, and sometimes having too many choices can feel like too much. But once you've got a very clear vision, then it's easy to select the right option for you. So being able to work with somebody who just says, that's it. This is your house site. This is what you can do to it. That's it. That's one choice. If that's going to suit you, if that's what you want, then work with someone who's not an architect. Work with one of those, what I call fake architects, a technologist, or a surveyor, who will give you a very standard solution, just tell you what you can do, and that's it. You can do that if that suits you. If you want something that is much more unique to you, then you do need to work with an architect. If you want to work with somebody who's going to then take you on this sort of a long journey of design and redesign and take a very long time about it in the traditional way, an architect will come around and have a chat with you and go away and do a design and then come back and show you the design and you have a chat, and then they'll go away and make another changes, and then they'll come back and show you another design or a sort of slightly altered design from the one you saw before, and you'll have another chat about that. And that can take a process of, a couple of years while you just come backwards and forwards. It's a really nice way of getting to know your architect. Your architect will gradually, over that time, get to know you. You'll gradually get to a point where you start to, the architect starts to understand you and starts to deliver designs that you actually want. And if you're not very confident about what you want, and you struggle with understanding floor plans, and you need really a long time to kind of think it through, and you have like a kind of endless budget and an endless amount of time to get a design that you're happy with, then working in that iterative way with a traditional architect could be the right way for you. I work very differently to both of those. What I do is I help you make a very clear vision for what it is you want. I guide you through my 5-step EAGLE process, which is EAGLE method is very simple. Evaluate your existing home, we assess your lifestyle, we gather all the important information together, we listen to your heart, like what you really love, what you'd really love your home to be like, and how you'd really love to live. And then we emphasize the priority that you have and get that clear, picking out what is the really right things for you. And then we explore multiple designs all in one design day and really get clear on many different options, have a look at them all and come up with some really strong designs. And then I help you to explore those, double check them, make sure that it's right for you. And it may not be that process and the double checking, you might come back, and I've had clients who throughout that process we've explored a basement works for the basement, changing the basement, creating home office in the basement space, and doing a guest bedroom and doing different things down there. And then when they've gone and double checked the design, they've checked the costs, they've checked different aspects of it, and they've realized actually, well, they've really explored that very quickly, and they've realized that actually those are not the things that they were really hoping to get out of their project, and it's actually something else, and then we can go through and do something else instead. And it's a very quick way of really getting clear what it is you need, what it is you want, and how we could deliver that. So that is a different process. That's my more innovative process. And so how you want to work is a really integral part of how you choose the best architect for you. So what is your priority? What are your values, and how do you want to work? Think about those 3 questions, and that will help you to choose which architect is going to be right for you and going to work best for you. So let's move on now. If you have found that useful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And we are nearly at 500 subscribers on this channel, which is amazing. So we are now going to go on to the Q&A. So I've got a couple of questions, and the first one is really sort of something that I see all the time, is people looking for help with their floor plans, with their layouts. And I saw another one today, and it said, It was a message that said, layout help, please. We are trying to rework our ground floor layout. It feels dark, even though it's south-facing, and the toilet feels like it's in the kitchen. Any help would be brilliant. So what I wanted to do was to give you some advice if you're in this position, if you really are thinking, I just really need help with my layout. I don't know how to make it work and just don't know what to do. Give me some ideas. Here's some things that you need to be able to communicate, to be able to get the designs that you want. So okay, it's really useful to know like what it is that you're not enjoying. So if you're, for example, if you have south-facing room but it still feels dark, probably you have like too much stuff in the way of the window, and the light is not coming further in, and the window is not big enough. Usually that's how it's blocking light coming in. And maybe you want to put a roof light in, maybe you want to put a bigger window in, maybe you want to clear the space closer to the window so that more of that light is coming deeper into your space. Those are 3 different ways that you can make a room brighter, really. And also using like reflective materials or lighter materials, all of these things will help to bring more light in. But if your layout isn't working for you and you're trying to figure out why or what you can do to make it work, then really you need to sort of evaluate what it is that's not working, and you need to think about what is it that you do want. How do you want it to work? So who is going to be using that space? How do they want to use the space? Is it one person or multiple people at the same time? How much physical space do you need to be able to have either just one person or multiple people in the space at one time doing the different things that they're going to be doing in that space? So who's going to do it, what you're going to do, how much space do you need to do that, and what kind of equipment or furniture do you need in the space to be able to get on with whatever it is you want. So if it's a kitchen, you know, how much workspace do you need? Do you need a cooker? Do you need a fridge? Do you need a sink? Do you need cupboard space? Do you need drawers? Do you need the cup? You know, how do you want it to be? What do you need in that space to be able to work? If it's a kitchen, again, I often ask, you know, how many cupboards do you need? How many sort of standard base unit cupboards, like 600 by 600 and 900 high? How many of those do you need to be able to fit all the stuff you need to have, the food, the pans, any like mini appliances, crockery, cutlery, all those sorts of things? How much storage space do you need for your kitchen essentials, and then extra things that you need to have or you want to have? That's the kind of thing that you need to start to get clear on before you can get layout help and advice. So I see this kind of pleas for help in a lot of public forums, on House, in Facebook groups, and it's very difficult for somebody to come and create a design for you with that such minimal information, because it's very important to know how you live, how you want to live, and what sort of space you need to be able to live in an easy and pleasurable way. To help you to get clear on that, you can get hold of my free Design Your Home Vision checklist, and that will help you to start to piece together a vision of how your home needs to be for it to suit you. This is based on my Eagle method. So this is something that I go into in much more detail in the big picture plan that I offer, where I also then create sketch designs with you and help you to check that they are really right. So it's a really comprehensive design package. But the free Design Your Home Vision checklist is something you can get hold of right now. The link is in the description, and that will really help you to get clear on who is going to be using the space, how are they going to use the space, what sort of quantity of space do you need. These are sorts of things you need to get. And then, okay, you can start to figure out, but if you're really struggling to figure out the layout, it can just take a really long time for you to figure it out yourself. And there's so many different things, there's sort of DIY or piecemeal getting kind of strangers' input to help you is not necessarily going to end up with the best design for you, or a design that really is coherent and consistently works. And also there are all these other things to take into account, all the technical, like structural, plumbing, all these sorts of things to take into account, that if you're trying to figure it out yourself, it can be very difficult if you don't have that kind of expert sort of construction knowledge back there in the back of your mind. Like somebody like me, I got 20 odd years experience, and it's all there in the back of my mind. 15 years of designing houses with homeowners and more experience prior to that in big companies working as an architect. I have a lot of knowledge in the back of my mind that I sort of bring into designing a layout, and that is crucial to have that knowledge. And if you don't have that knowledge, then it's very hard actually to get a layout that really works and takes into account all those different things. So yes, by all means, like look for help online if you want to. Ask for help and try and get strangers to give you free advice, but you're not going to get the best layout for you in that way. So get clear on your vision and then work with an architect who can help you, is my advice if you're in that situation. So that's one question. If you have any questions at all, please do comment in the chat and I will answer questions. If I'm not live and you're watching the replay, then no problem. Still put your questions into the chat. I come and I pick up the questions and I will come back, and next week, the next time I run next live stream with a Q&A, I will pick them up then and I will answer them then. So this is an interesting question that came up, which was, what improvements to a UK home would you consider to allow the house to grow with the family, including the possibility of adult children living at home, possibly with partners long term? So that's really interesting, like multi-generational living and large extended families. Now, there are certain specific things. I've worked with a couple of families in this situation, and there are certain things that come up, and there are a lot of tricky things. So if you're looking, first of all, if you're looking at having a home that is going to be your kind of your forever home, you kind of want to be carried out in a box sort of a home, and it's going to suit you for your whole life, then it's a bit like, when you having insurance is sort of putting in place things that will, if something went wrong, that a way that you don't want it to go, like for example, this can happen as you age, as your body ages, but it can happen at any time. You could be involved in a car accident and get injured, and just while you're recovering, or it could be a permanent injury. It can then mean that your mobility is affected and your ability to move around spaces in the same way is different. So if you're in that situation, you're thinking long term and you want to make sure that your home is you're not going to have to keep making adaptations to it, then certain things I would suggest is making sure that doors are wider, because standard house doors in the UK are quite narrow and they don't make it easy to get through if you were in the situation where you needed a wheelchair or some other kind of walking aid and you needed a wider doorway to be able to get through. So having wider than sort of typical doorways, somewhere around 900 wide is good to give you plenty of space to get a good size wheelchair through. It also makes it easier to get furniture in and out of rooms. If you've got big pieces of furniture, it's much easier to get them through a wider doorway than a narrower doorway. So it's lots of benefits to doing this but standard UK homes have quite narrow doors. So having a wider door can really help with, especially on the ground floor. Maybe if you're thinking about wheelchair access and having the ability to use mobility aids, maybe upstairs, unless you're going to put in like a platform lift or a stair, a chair, then and you actually, if you're not going to use the upstairs at all, if you're in that situation and you're going to have a bedroom on the ground floor and washing space, loo, level access, shower room, that kind of thing, you want to incorporate that on the ground floor to make sure that you have got the ability to continue to use your home comfortably and as independently as possible throughout your life, right through to the end. Then those are some things that you want to consider, is having wider doorways and circulation spaces so that you can move around very easily, even if you have to use some sort of mobility aid. And it does help with pushchairs, it helps with moving furniture, it helps with so many things. So having those bit wider spaces is really helpful. Thinking about if you are having adult children with partners, then potentially you're also going to have some younger children joining it as well at some point. So you're going to need to have plenty of space. Now, it depends on your family dynamics. If you're the kind of family who just loves to be together, you just want to have loads of space together. But even in that sort of situation, often most people want to have some moment to themselves, somewhere they can retreat to, and not necessarily, or sometimes it can be that it's just like it's the loo. You go, you lock the toilet door, and you get to have a little moment of peace to yourself in the loo. But maybe if you want a little bit more space than that, then having a separate, smaller, cozy sitting room or study or something, like a little quiet space where people can sort of take themselves off if they want to have a little bit of alone time and not have to be with the whole group. So you might have a big open plan kitchen diner, you might have a large sitting area as part of that possibly, but having some separate spaces to be able to spend time together, but also to enable you to spend time apart, where it's not necessarily just going off to your bedroom or hiding in the loo is the only option to have that time apart. And sometimes you might want to have like a kind of, it depends on, again, how you want to cook. So in some families, very much a case of, you cook together and you eat together. But in some families, it's more a case of, well, we kind of want to live next to each other. We want to be mostly integrated, but we eat these kind of things. We prefer to eat this. We want to eat our own way. And I want, you might have somebody who is particular about how they want their kitchen to be. And so having a small separate kitchen that is, depending on who's going to be cooking, thinking about that. How do you want to share your lives? What is it that you want to share? What spaces do you want to be shared and have space for larger groups, all of you to be? And where do you want to have some separation? These are sorts of things to think about. And then bathroom facilities, whether you want to share bathroom facilities, how much, if you're all going to be getting up in the morning, getting washed and dressed and wanting to get out fast, then you're going to need to think about how much bathroom space do you want, and do you actually want to each have sort of like an ensuite individually separate, so that you can do that. You've got smaller amount of people demanding that bathroom use at the same time. So that is another sort of critical use point. So how many bathrooms you want. So these are a couple of things to think about if you are in that situation, if you're living in a sort of multi-generational big family. What have you found has been the thing that you really need or really need more of? Is you need more toilets and showers? Do you need more space for seating, or do you need more smaller separate spaces where you can go and hide out and just have a bit of a relax on your own in a quieter space? What is it that you are looking for? And if that's nothing to do with you, that's fine, no problem. We will go on to our topic of the day, which is what you can do during the summer to prepare for your home redesign. So if you are thinking that you'd like to do something for your home and you do want to make some big changes to your home, but you're maybe at quite an early stage, you've not quite got to the point of like figuring anything out yet, but you're just starting to feel like it's not quite right, something needs to be done. Here are some things that you can do over the summer holidays to give you inspiration and to figure things out. So one thing you can do is, if you're thinking about specific kind of alterations to your home, like maybe you've got a separate kitchen and diner, and you're thinking, oh, we might want to open it up and have a big open plan kitchen diner, then one thing you can do is go and hire a cottage or a flat or something somewhere that has a similar layout or a similar arrangement of rooms to what you're thinking of creating in your home. And that way you can kind of test run it and see if it really is right for you. Because the thing is, when we buy our houses, we don't get to test run them. And it's quite similar when you're designing a space and you've never experienced that new kind of space before. It's very hard for you to know, is it really going to be right for us? And this is something that I have suggested to my clients several times in the past, is when they've not been sure whether it's actually the right layout for them and they've never experienced that kind of space before, what I've suggested is that they go and find a holiday home where they can go rent that for a weekend or a week and just see what it's like. Give it an actual trial run and see what it's like to live in that space for a little bit of time, and if it really is going to work or not. It's a really good way of testing out. And yes, hiring a holiday home can be a bit pricey, but better to spend that money and test it out and enjoy a weekend, a really nice weekend or a week's holiday, and get to check out. And then you can be sure that what you're going to be building and spending much, much more money, tens of thousands of pounds on creating, is actually right for you. And at the end of the day, you're going to be happy with it. I think that's really money well spent to test run the kind of space that you want to have. Another thing that you can do is, while you're away, spend like a little bit of time, get yourself a little notepad and pen that you enjoy using, and have a little sit, maybe in your hammock or on your sun lounger, having a little think about what it is that what are you feeling about home. Do you miss home? Is there anything about home that you're missing? Or is there anything about where you are on holiday, something about the lifestyle that you're living on holiday, something about the place that you're living, that you really wish that when you got back home you could replicate that, you could have that continue that lifestyle that you're living, or recreate something about that space at home. So just have a little journal about it, have a think about, what are you missing? What are you really, really glad to not be having to deal with right now while you're on holiday? So have a little think about these things and write out your thoughts. It's all about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what are you missing? What are you not missing? And then when you get back home, really take a conscious look at how you're feeling. When you're arriving back home, how does it feel? Are you sort of like, relieved to be back and happy to be back? Or do you get that kind of like heart sinking feeling and think, oh no, back to the usual grind, everyday standard stuff, and feeling a bit low about that? How does it feel? What is it about your home that is contributing to that, either that feeling of relief and thankfully we're home safe and well, we had a nice time, but it's so nice to be back, or you're kind of like, oh no, back to the usual every day now. What is it about your home that is kind of like either uplifting and helping you relax and feel, it's home, or what is sort of feeling like dragging you down and making you kind of feel a bit disappointed to be walking back through that door? So this is a good thing to journal about, like how you're feeling as you get back and what sort of stands out to you, because once you've gone away and come back, you've got this fresh perspective that you can look at your home again with a fresh set of eyes, and you might sort of, things will stick out to you and you think, oh, I really want to change that. I hadn't noticed that before, but that's something I really want to change. So start to write out things that you want to change and what are your priorities, like what do you really, really want to do first? And maybe you can go and get that done really quickly if it's a small thing. But start to create this sort of ideas and thoughts about what it is you want to change, what it is you're happy with, how do you feel at home, and what about home is giving you those sorts of feelings. Is it positive? Is it negative? How do you want to feel, and how can you change things, tweak things, adjust them to feeling more positive rather than negative? I'd love to know if you put this into action, what your thoughts are, and I am going to sign off now because it's my lunchtime and I'm getting hungry and I can smell something good from the kitchen. So if this has been helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I've put some links in the description where you can get some more help from me if you like. There is the free Design Your Home Vision checklist that will help you create this vision for your home and how you want to live in it, and therefore what you want to change about it. There is the renovation roadmap, which will help you to get clear on your priorities and how to then plan out your project in line with your priorities of budget, timescale and quality. And that also, there's contribution from that goes to a homeless charity called Coffee for Craig. And then there is the big picture plan, which is my comprehensive sketch design package. It's a really good way to start your home redesign. I have 10 places available to work with me before Christmas. So if you're thinking about getting started on your home design project and you want to get my help to do that, then I have 2 spaces available in September, 2 or 3 in October, again, a couple in November and a couple in December, so 10 in total. So have a look at the big picture plan. The link is in the description. I hope this has been really helpful, really useful, and lovely to have had you join me today, and I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now.